Part 34. The Wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Kiji Now. Chapter 332. This is setting up price barriers. It directly makes it unprofitable for people who want to get started, and eventually give up getting started. When the time comes, she will look for opportunities to expand her business to other cities. While the wood-type superpowers in other cities are not strong enough, continue to use your own production scale effect and price barrier strategy to seize the market to the greatest extent possible. At least 5 years before the end of the world, her grain, vegetable, or seed business will be able to do smoothly. If she executes her strategy well, it will take more than 5 years. Okay, miss, help me order a space jade first. A base representative took out a space jade directly from his arms. He originally planned to use the space jade to store weapons, but now he decided to use it to buy vegetables, food, and supplies. You can buy the arms after you go back, but the people at the base can't wait any longer. Maybe some people are starving to death now. Besides, if he's lucky, maybe the Thunder base can still deliver goods to his base. I'll take one too, another base representative then handed the space jade to Len Ning. And I. Several base representatives followed at once. The other people who were standing not far away hesitated when they saw that several people had already placed orders. The lady said before that although this vegetable base has a large output, it cannot provide vegetables and food for every base. I'm afraid it will be too late. Give me two. Thinking of this, a base representative who had been observing the situation suddenly said. He happened to bring 2 space jades with him, one was intended to be used to transport arms, and the other was personal property. Food and supplies are so precious, and the lady's prices are so fair. He is willing to spend a space jade in exchange for food and vegetable supplies. When the time comes to transport it back, if the boss doesn't reimburse him, he will sell it on the market. Anyway, you can definitely make a lot of money. As soon as this person spoke, everyone took out space jade and wanted to place an order with Len Ning. Don't worry, everyone. Len Ning quickly gestured to calm everyone down. When everyone was quiet, Len Ning looked at Li Feng who had returned. Li Feng agreed and quickly took out a pen and paper from his space ring. Everyone, come here to register. After receiving the space jade, we can arrange the corresponding materials later, Li Feng said as he walked. As soon as everyone could still hold their ground, they immediately headed towards Li Feng. And the small table in front of Li Feng was packed with people. Watching the base representatives rushing to deliver the space jade to Li Feng, Len Ning raised the corners of his mouth. Everyone, please feel free to queue up. The goods will be ready before you leave the Thunder base. Li Feng greeted everyone. Len Ning coughed twice when he saw that the representatives from the bases ignored Li Feng's words. Everyone looked at Len Ning and realized that his behavior was somewhat inappropriate, and then they lined up. Don't worry, everyone, I will personally mention it to my brother later and arrange for delivery people to accompany you. I will personally deliver the weapons and vegetables you ordered to your base. I will also take back the space jade you paid for, Len Ning said with a smile. As soon as these words came out, the representatives of the bases would not have any scruples. Immediately, he bought all the weapons and space jade used by the superiors for his own use to buy vegetables, food, and supplies. After some operations, Li Feng counted and found that he had harvested 30 space jades. The wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Kiji Now. Chapter 333. Among them, the person who bought the most goods actually took out 3 space jades. It is enough to show that the representatives of the bases are eager for food and vegetable supplies. After everyone had registered, Li Feng left with everyone's space jade. Seeing everyone looking at Li Feng's leaving figure with uneasy expressions on their faces, Len Ning reassured everyone, don't worry, Assistant Li will arrange the goods. It's getting late. Everyone, follow me and continue to visit the vegetable base. When we are finished here, Hall Master Lan will pick you up and go to the ordnance warehouse to select arms and supplies. When they heard that they were going to choose weapons later, everyone immediately put away their nostalgia for the space jade and continued to visit the vegetable base with Len Ning. The more they visited the vegetable base, the more the representatives from each base were amazed at the power of the Thunder base. Although most of the vegetables grown in this vegetable base are leafy vegetables that are easy to induce and grow quickly, there are also crops such as green beans, eggplants, tomatoes, cauliflower, pumpkins, and winter melons. The variety of vegetables is amazing. When they walked to the fruit field, Len Ning specially brought out some watermelons and grapes so that everyone could have a taste of them on the spot. The fruits spawned by wood-type powers grow very well and taste even sweeter than the high-end fruits that people ate before the end of the world. Seeing that everyone liked it, Len Ning smiled and promised to give each base representative a box of fruit as a gift. Then, the base representatives were sent out of the vegetable base. Before the person sent to find Blue Snake came back, Len Ning called Yan Yu aside. Yan Yu couldn't suppress the joy in his heart when he saw Len Ning looking for him alone. This Len Ning is still interesting after all. After all, he still misses the friendship between classmates. Miss Len Ning. Yan Yu called Len Ning politely. In fact, he really wanted to call Len Ning by his first name. But now that he and Len Ning have different statuses, and he wants something from her, it's better to be more respectful. Yeah, Len Ning nodded. Are teacher Zhang and the others also at Quanglan base now? Chang Yanyu then asked directly. In fact, what she wanted to ask more was whether Han Yu was at Quanglan base. Yes. Everyone is here, Yan Yu said quickly. My coming to the Thunder base this time is the result of teacher Jiang's recommendation. Len Ning was stunned. How are the students, how are they doing now? Then he continued to ask. Teacher Zhang is a person with thunder powers, and most of the classmates who followed him have awakened their powers, so they shouldn't be doing too badly now. Thanks to teacher Zhang, now everyone is working in important departments of the base at this point. Yan Yu smiled on his face. You don't know yet. The Quanglan base was founded by teacher Jiang's father. Teacher Zhang was actually the second young master of the Zhang family before the end of the world. The Zhang family is a big family. Although it is not as powerful as the Lei family in City A, it is also an existence that cannot be underestimated. More importantly, the Zhang family is still an established family. Because it has been in business for many years, it has countless relationships with many chaebol. After they followed teacher Zhang to Quanglan base, they accidentally saw many people from the chaebol family. The reason why Quanglan base is so wealthy now is largely related to those plutocratic families. Although it is the end of the world, precious metals are still valuable. The most important thing is jade. You must know that some jade has space. According to the report conclusion obtained above, the higher the grade of jade, the greater the probability of space appearing. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Kiji Now. Chapter 334. Jade produced by artificial forgery or added pigments has almost no space, and low-grade jade rarely has space. Naturally, most of the jade in the hands of those chaebols are high-grade jade. Therefore, the number of space jade in their Quanglan base is actually quite large. With a large amount of space jade, their superpowers basically returned from missions fully loaded, and the base's supplies naturally increased accordingly. It can be said that except for the Thunder base, there is no base in the entire city that is richer and more powerful than Quanglan. Even before coming, he thought that Thunder base might not be as prosperous as Quanglan base. After all, the bases he had seen before were really not that bad compared to Quanglan. Yes. Teacher Zhang is indeed not an ordinary person, Len Ning agreed. A flash of confidence flashed across Yan Yu's face. Although they are not doing as well as Len Ning now, they are not bad either. Teacher Zhang sent me to the Thunder base. On the one hand, he wanted to purchase a batch of arms and go back to strengthen the security of the base. At the same time, he also wanted to get in touch with you, Yan Yu suddenly said. Len Ning was stunned. You didn't go with everyone at that time. Teacher Zhang has been worried since he went back. Before I set off this time, he specifically asked me to inquire about your situation and it would be best to meet with you. Teacher Zhang is indeed a good teacher. They will definitely help him gain a foothold in Quanglan base as soon as possible. By the way, how are Zhou Tao and Yuan Xing doing now? When we left the resort, their abilities seemed to be approaching the second level at that time. Teacher Zhang said that Len Ning and the others were extremely talented and had a bright future. Unlimited. Len Ning is really powerful, and his wood-type superpower has reached the 4th level. As for Zhou Tao and Yuan Xing, he is now curious about their current situation. He is also a combat-type superpower, and his wind-type superpower has reached the middle stage of the 2nd level. He is already considered a powerful being at Quanglan base. Oh. I formed a mercenary team, and they are now my vice-captains. Since they are busy with the vegetable base during this period, I let them do their own missions and experience, Len Ning said with a smile. Superpower, I heard it's growing pretty fast. Yan Yu's heart trembled. How fast? I just happened to ask them yesterday and they said that their abilities are currently at the 3rd level, intermediate level, Len Ning said without paying much attention. Yan Yu's eyes suddenly widened. What did you say? Seeing Len Ning looking at him, Yan Yu realized that he was rude and quickly lowered his voice. 3rd level, intermediate level, then he asked in disbelief. Yes, Len Ning nodded. More than half a month ago, they reached the 3rd level. This progress is barely fast, then he continued. Barely. Looking at Len Ning in front of him, Yan Yu once again felt that there seemed to be a serious problem with his cognition. Trying to suppress the complicated emotions in his heart, Yan Yu continued to ask Len Ning, since they are already 3rd level superpowers, why not arrange for them to enter the army? When asking, Yan Yu was still questioning. Tone. Len Ning's current identity is Mr. Lei's sister, so it shouldn't be difficult to insert 2 of her own people into the power structure. What's more, if Zhou Tao and Yuan Xing are so powerful, they should be welcomed by the military. In the class before the end of the world, Zhou Tao and Yuan Xing were not the kind of low-key people. The wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Kge Now. Chapter 335. After the end of the world, they chose to follow Len Ning largely because of his identity. Now that they have followed Len Ning to the Thunder base, they naturally don't just want to be Le Shai's mercenaries. It's coming soon, it'll only take a few days. Len Ning still had a smile on his face. These past few days, you couldn't really make up a lie to deceive yourself, right? The look of disbelief on Yan Yu's face became even more obvious. Glancing at Yan Yu's expression, Len Ning sighed helplessly. Brother is going to appoint me as the 5th Hall Master of the Thunder base. Because the conditions were not sufficient and the preparations were not sufficient, I put this plan on hold. Yan Yu's eyes widened again. Hall Master. There are only 4 Hall Masters in this Thunder base, all of whom hold great power and directly take orders from Mr. Lei. Is it possible for the Hall Master to do this based on his connections? For example, Teacher Zhang, even though he is the son of the City Lord, he is currently just a director under the City Lord's closest ministers. If you want to reach a position comparable to the leader of the Thunder base, it can be said that the road is still very long. This Len Ning can actually hum the Hall Master directly. I can almost let go of the vegetable base. Zhou Tao and the others are growing at a decent rate, so the time has almost come. Len Ning continued, when the sales of vegetables open up, we will have money to recruit troops. Len Ning's eyes flashed and he continued, oh, by the way, the eldest brother of this vegetable base gave me half of the shares. Therefore, regarding military expenditures, I took the initiative to tell the eldest brother and try my best to solve it myself. 1/2 share, Yan Yu couldn't help but look back at the door of the vegetable base. This place can be called a giant money printing machine. Mr. Lei actually gave Len Ning half of such a valuable thing. Looking at the extraordinary girl in front of him, Yan Yu instantly felt that Len Ning's body seemed to be covered with a halo. Len Ning is really not the lonely nerd he was before the end of the world. Then Yan Yu's mind was a little confused and he no longer knew what to say. He feels a little ashamed of himself now. Since Teacher Zhang is at Quanglan Base, let him be in charge of your future cooperation with my vegetable base at Quanglan Base. Len Ning saw through Yan Yu's thoughts and said directly. The second son of the Zhang family means that there is an elder brother above Teacher Zhang. This can also understand why Teacher Zhang comes from a wealthy family, but before the end of the world, he will go to Huigi Middle School to become a teacher. The eldest brother in his family is probably not someone to be trifled with. When she was at the resort, she could tell that Teacher Zhang was not the kind of person who really looked down on fame and fortune. Since he was determined to compete with his eldest brother, she, a student, was naturally willing to do a favor as a favor. For the sake of helping her, I hope Teacher Zhang can do something to make her feel better. For example, promoting more cooperation between the two bases, and more like Han Yu. Yan Yu was happy. Thank you, miss, then he paused and bowed to Len Ning. At this moment, Yan Yu was completely convinced by Len Ning. Len Ning nodded. Please go back and tell Teacher Zhang that we miss him too. When I have the opportunity, I will personally visit him at Quanglan Base. At this point, a dark color flashed in Len Ning's eyes. Yes, Yan Yu's tone was filled with joy. Teacher Zhang failed to hold an important position, largely because he was suppressed by his elder brother. The eldest son has been running the Zhang family for many years and has close relations with those plutocrats. The wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Kiji Now. Chapter 336. Coupled with the strong background of the eldest son's mother's natal family, the city lord had to be somewhat afraid of him. This also makes Teacher Zhang very marginalized at the top. Now that Len Ning is willing to stand behind Teacher Zhang has a strong background support in the Thunder Base. Finally, I have the confidence and opportunity to enter the senior management. At this moment, Yan Yu finally figured out why Teacher Zhang repeatedly warned him before leaving, asking him to get in touch with Len Ning and see Len Ning. It turns out that Teacher Zhang had already planned to use Len Ning to board the big ship of Thunder Base. Teacher Zhang, you are really amazing. Now Len Ning is ranked first in the Thunder Base in terms of strength and voice. With her helping behind the scenes, their chance is finally coming. Besides, is Han Yu also in Quanglan now? Len Ning suddenly asked. Yan Yu was stunned. He quickly suppressed the smile on his face and said respectfully to Len Ning, yes. It seems that Teacher Zhang arranged her into a clerical department. After all, she has no powers, Yan Yu said after thinking for a while. Teacher Zhang was extremely kind to her. After all, in these last days, it is really difficult to survive without superpowers. Besides, Han Yu looks innocent, but is not a good person. It is said that he had an affair with several boys in his class, trying to make a good living in this way. It's a pity that the boys just want to play with her, and no one really cares about her. After all, her thoughts were exposed when she was at the resort. Even if some of the classmates were really interested in Han Yu, no one would dare to take a serious interest in her after knowing those things. After all, if you find a slutty woman who is capable of being a cuckold as your girlfriend, you will have to worry about being cuckolded for the rest of your life. Han Yu also came to seduce him once, but unfortunately, because he had seen her poor and lowly appearance, he really couldn't arouse any sexual interest. On the contrary, I felt a little disgusted. Remembering that Len Ning had a good relationship with Han Yu before the end of the world, Yan Yu quickly restrained his disdain for Han Yu. There was something strange in Len Ning's eyes. Then please tell Teacher Zhang and ask him to take care of Han Yu for me. Don't let her die. When he said the last two words, Len Ning's tone was very cold. Yan Yu was shocked. What does Len Ning mean? Seeing that Yan Yu didn't seem to understand, Len Ning raised the corner of his mouth and said, I have a little fun with Han Yu. Yan Yu suddenly had an epiphany. I couldn't help but mourn for Han Yu for 2 seconds. Len Ning said, don't let Han Yu die early. This holiday is not an ordinary one. Don't worry, miss, before you go to Quanglin, I will definitely take care of Han Yu on your behalf. Yan Yu then flattered Chong Len Ning and said, Teacher Zhang has such a good temper. If he went back to tell him about this, he might not be able to do anything to embarrass Han Yu. So let him do this. After all, it is too important for them to have a good relationship with Len Ning right now. Len Ning raised the corners of his mouth slightly, very satisfied with Yan Yu's performance. At this time, the blue snake has arrived. That's it? Don't worry about the goods. Any subsequent orders placed by Teacher Zhang will be given priority by me, Len Ning said to Yan Yu. Yan Yu's face was filled with joy, and he bowed to Len Ning and said, thank you, miss. Len Ning nodded, turned, and left. Yan Yu stood up. He stood there and watched Len Ning leave. He waited until Len Ning entered the gate of the vegetable base before turning around and walking towards everyone. This trip to the Thunder base was really fruitful. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Ki Now. Chapter 337. Len Ning returned to the vegetable base, and Li Feng was already waiting for her. Time is urgent. If you still need anything, just bring it to me, Len Ning said directly to Li Feng without saying anything. Although their vegetable base now has surplus grain, it is still difficult to get together with so many orders at once. The base representatives will leave tonight, and only if she personally takes action can the goods be matched. Miss, please come with me. Li Feng was not polite and left directly with Len Ning. This is the first batch of orders from the vegetable base, so there can be no mistakes. Yeah, Len Ning set off quickly. Then Len Ning started the crazy output mode of mental power, and the workers cooperated with Len Ning to harvest and process vegetables. Len Ning did not stop during the whole process. After finishing one field, he immediately rushed to the next field. One wave of workers harvested the finished fields, and another wave of workers loosened the fields to sow, and so on. After more than 3 hours of hard work, the wood-type superpowers, under the leadership of Len Ning, finally completed the amount of vegetables and grains Li Feng calculated he would need today. After completing the quantity of goods, Len Ning did not stop, but asked everyone to continue to follow her into production. This is just the first batch of orders. When the base representatives return to their respective bases, they will soon receive more orders. Right now, vegetable and food crops, the more they produce, the better. Miss, everyone is off work. Let's stop here today. Seeing Len Ning preparing to go to the next field, Li Feng frowned and stepped forward to persuade him. Len Ning paused and looked at Li Feng. Your health is important, we are still at the base. Li Feng shrank his eyes and did not dare to look at Len Ning, but continued. The longer you get along with the lady, the more clearly you will understand. Miss, she just looks cold on the outside, but she is actually quite soft on the inside. Len Ning was startled. Then he sighed and relaxed his tense heartstrings. I was too anxious. As he spoke, he walked to the table nearby, pulled up a chair, and sat down. Then he took some water from his space ring and drank it. After drinking more than half of the bottle, Len Ning felt comfortable. Miss, I also want to expand the business as soon as possible. Although the vegetable base is developing rapidly now, without you, the efficiency is indeed greatly reduced. Li Feng walked up to Len Ning and said. He knew that the vegetable base was not the end for Miss, but a stepping stone. and the young lady has been anxious to get off this pedal. Unfortunately, the foundation beneath this pedal is not strong enough. Once the lady leaves, everything will be in chaos here. What do you think? Len Ning suddenly looked at Li Feng. Asked in a calm tone. Li Feng was stunned. There was a hint of fear on his face. Tell me about it, Len Ning said calmly. Since Li Feng followed him, his performance has been remarkable. Many times she even handles things beautifully, beyond her expectation. If she really lets go of the vegetable base, Li Feng will be an important candidate to take over some of the rights in her hands. With Li Feng cooperating with Lu Wenhua, this vegetable base can safely serve as her money bag. Li Feng calmed down and finally looked at Len Ning. In the short term, the vegetable base will probably be unable to do without Mrs. Help. Len Ning nodded and motioned for Li Feng to continue. But Miss doesn't have to force herself to stay on the production line all the time, although Miss is indeed the largest productivity of the vegetable base at the moment. But Len Ning frowned. He only said one word, but stopped. The wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Kge Now. Chapter 338. You continue. Then he said to Li Feng. She didn't understand what Li Feng said. It's just that the orders are coming in a steady stream. Isn't it possible that she won't make any money? Based on the current situation, our orders will definitely increase in the future. But for now, the base does not necessarily have to meet all the order needs of the major bases. How do you say it? Len Ning became interested. There are quite a few bases of various sizes in Cydia now, and there are not a few who want to establish diplomatic relations and alliances with the Thunder base, Li Feng said. It's just that these bases are strong or weak, and the Thunder base will definitely treat them differently. Len Ning nodded and signaled Li Feng to continue. As an important organization of the Thunder base, our vegetable base should naturally cooperate with the general policy of the military when dealing with orders from external bases and treat these customers appropriately and differently. Yeah, Len Ning agreed. This was the reason why she greeted Yan Yu before and asked him to go back and correspond with Teacher Zhang. A large base like Quanglin base will be an important ally of Thunder base. It was for the sake of the future of Thunder base that she wanted to win over Teacher Zhang so early, and even agreed to help him rise to the top in Quanglin base. Because only in this way can the Thunder base's plan to dominate Cydia be realized in advance. The reason why Big Brother in the previous life took him 4 years to completely conquer Cydia was because the Quanglin base had been wavering. Teacher Jiang's eldest brother is not very strong, but his ambition is not small. He actually thought that the Southern Army base wanted to help him and let him take down the Thunder base. Now that she already knows what will happen next, she will naturally not allow that person to take over. And Teacher Zhang is the best substitute for that person. When Teacher Zhang takes control of Quanglin and cooperates with Thunder base, the time for Cydia to be completely purified will definitely be much earlier in this life. I suggest that we implement different limited supply standards for each major base based on the estimated population of each major base and the degree of affinity with our Thunder base, Li Feng said. Limited supply standard, Len Ning was confused. Yeah. For example, for large bases like Quanglin, you can set a high maximum limit and allow them to place more orders every week. For small bases like Agni, you can only give them a few orders of goods a week. Of course, it is best to discuss the specific quantity with the military. Li Feng paused and continued, I think we can refer to the purchase volume of arms supplies from major bases. As time goes by, the strength of the wood-type superpowers in the base will further improve, and the shipment volume can gradually increase. Li Feng has not finished speaking. In addition, we can also introduce a group of wood-type superpower employees from major bases. As long as the price is right, there should be a base willing to send people over. Len Ning's eyes flashed. Any more? The other thing is Mrs. Wood-type spiritual pet juice. If it can be continuously provided to Wood-type psychics, it will definitely allow everyone to advance faster. But right now This morning, several wood-type superpowers suddenly reported that they had developed resistance to the sap. The specific manifestation is that I can no longer smell the smell of the juice. The lady immediately asked the loan department to stop supplying juice to the wood-type superpowers. But the benefits of sap are obvious to all. Without the help of sap, the strength growth of wood-type superpowers will be very slow in the future. The wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Kiji Now. Chapter 339. Len Ning's expression froze, and then he patted his forehead. I almost forgot about this. With that said, Len Ning stood up directly. Go back and write a plan for what you have in mind. After I read it, I will take it to discuss with my elder brother. I'm going to the laboratory. That's it for today. You can get off work. With that, Len Ning left in a hurry. She is too busy today. She is receiving representatives from major bases and is focused on the front line of vegetable base production to chase production. He actually left behind the development of pills. If Li Feng hadn't reminded her, she wouldn't have thought of it. No matter how strong her personal production capacity is, there is always a limit to what she can do. As a senior manager, you can't just look at the present but look to the future. What she has to do is not to complete the short-term production volume by herself, but to cultivate as much productivity as possible. Only in this way can she free her hands, and at the same time make the vegetable base stronger step by step, and gradually break away from dependence on her personal productivity. Xiaoman's juice is a magic weapon for the wood-type superpowers in the vegetable base to upgrade and become stronger. But now, until the laboratory reaches a conclusion and produces pills, she will not dare to rashly provide it to the wood-type superpowers. Juice out. The wood-type superpowers were the vegetable base's greatest asset, and she could no longer take risks with them. It is of great significance for the laboratory to start further research as soon as possible and speed up the release of the pill. Thinking of this, Len Ning's pace quickened a little. After entering the military headquarters, Len Ning walked all the way towards the laboratory, and finally arrived at the destination before the laboratory staff got off work. When the guard saw Len Ning coming in a hurry, he hurriedly came forward to salute. "Where is your director Wang?" Len Ning asked as he walked inside. She had personally come to the laboratory to deliver juice before, and the person who received her at that time was Director Wang. "Doorman." "Director, he hasn't left yet. He is just a doorman, who knows where Director Wang is now. But it's not yet time to get off work here, and Director Wang should indeed still be inside. No need to follow me, I'll look for it myself." Len Ning glanced at the guard and walked directly inside. Len Ning came to the inside of the laboratory building and saw a row of rooms. It's labeled Laboratory 1, Laboratory 2, etc. I was a little depressed and felt that finding someone would be like looking for a needle in a haystack. When I was about to find someone to ask where Director Wang was, I saw a blue snake. And the person who came out with him was Director Wang she was looking for. After finding the person, Len Ning breathed a sigh of relief. "Miss," Blue Snake spotted Len Ning first and immediately walked towards her. Director Wang also quickly followed and saluted Len Ning. What is Brother Lan doing here?" Glancing at Director Wang, Len Ning asked Lan Shi, "By the way, have all the base representatives left?" A smile appeared on the blue snake's face. "I just arranged for someone to send them away. The boss asked me to ask about the production of pills," Blue Snake said and glanced at Director Wang. "I just finished communicating with Director Wang." Then he looked at Len Ning doubtfully. "Is this why the lady is here too?" "Yeah. I just finished my work at the vegetable base. I remembered this and came over to ask." "Director Wang, there is a new situation now. The vegetable base has a reaction from wood-type superpowers, and it is said that it has developed resistance to the juice," Len Ning said directly to Director Wang. "The symptom is that he cannot smell the juice, or the perception of taste is significantly weakened." You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Kiji Now. Chapter 340. Blue Snake was stunned. Director Wang was also startled. What was their dosage before? Chong Lenning then asked. Lenning replied truthfully. The people who had the problem were all second-level peak Wood-type superpowers. It should be because he saw Zhao Cheng successfully promoted and was assigned a house yesterday. These people received a large amount of juice at once last night and used it all on their bodies after returning. This is also her fault. She did not explain to the loan department before that the loan juice should be restricted, which caused such serious consequences. Director Wang looked serious. The amount is indeed too large, but there is no need to worry too much. We have conducted clinical trials before and found that consuming too much juice or applying it externally will indeed cause people with superpowers to develop resistance to the juice. However, this resistance does not damage the people with superpowers' sense of smell or taste, but it does not damage their sense of smell or taste. Physical and mental strength. After that, just let these superpowers disable the juice for a period of time, and they can return to normal. Hearing this, Len Ning was instantly relieved. However, the recovery period can be long or short. The shortest one only took 1 day, and the longest one. Director Wang stopped talking. How long is the longest? Len Ning felt anxious on his face. The longest one has been 11 days, and I haven't recovered yet, Director Wang finally said. Len Ning's face stiffened. If it has not recovered for more than 10 days, does it mean that the supernatural talent has been destroyed? So I made a special note in the report that the amount of juice must be strictly controlled, otherwise I'm afraid the gain will outweigh the loss, Director Wang continued. Can a reasonable frequency and proportion of medication be worked out? Blue Snake frowned and asked Director Wang. Len Ning also looked at Director Wang. For the sake of safety, the suggestion from the laboratory is that the juice should only be used by superpowers who are at the peak of their level. It is forbidden to use juice for other superpowers who have not reached the peak level. This can reduce the risk of drug resistance to a certain extent. At the same time, it is also helpful for us to set the dosage of medicine for peak-level superpowers, Professor Wang said. Len Ning nodded. This is indeed an ideal solution to circumvent drug resistance. If the control can be in place, we have basically reached a conclusion on the frequency and proportion of medication, Professor Wang continued. Of course, the current data is only for the first-order peak and the second-order peak. After all, the third-order peak in the base people with superpowers don't exist yet, and even if they do exist, they are unlikely to be willing to participate in his volunteer experiment. Then mass production as soon as possible, Len Ning said immediately. If the pills are only used by superpowers at the peak of their class, then the demand for Xiaoman's juice in the Thunder base will not be that big. In this case, the pills may also be available for sale. Of course, in order to prevent these pills from being used on Wood-type superpowers in outside bases, the conditions for external sales must be very strict. However, this is something to consider later. Right now, the most important thing is to get the pill available as soon as possible. Director Wang, if a person with superpowers is at the peak of the third level and takes medication according to the frequency of the second level, what is the probability of developing drug resistance? Blue Snake suddenly asked Director Wang. Since the last time he was baptized by Xiaoman's juice and successfully entered the third level, his strength has grown very fast, and now he has reached the intermediate level of the third level. Maybe it won't be long before he reaches the peak of the third level. Pills will inevitably be used at that time. Currently, no one among the 4 hall masters has reached the 4th level. If he can run ahead of them. Thinking about it makes me a little excited. The Wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Kiji Now. Chapter 341. Although we have only conducted experimental tests on first and second level superpowers so far, it is basically certain that the higher the level of superpowers, the stronger the resistance to the concentration of the juice, Director Wang replied. The blue snake's eyes lit up with joy. If he was afraid of something happening, he could just follow the medication standards for second-level superpowers or improve upon them. But despite this, I still don't recommend that non-peak superpowers use juice, Director Wang continued. Although the experimental results show that the juice is more effective than the crystal core, the issue of tolerance must be considered. Good things have pros and cons, and they have the best effect when used at the most critical time. The light in Blue Snake's eyes dissipated and he nodded to Director Wang. In addition, after peak stage superpowers use juice for a period of time and find that they hit a bottleneck but are unable to advance, it is best to stop using the juice for a period of time, Director Wang continued. Director Wang, you can confirm the specific medication rules. Speed up the production of samples and then put them into mass production, Len Ning said directly. Yes, Director Wang agreed. Len Ning nodded. Just as he was about to leave, he saw Blue Snake saying goodbye to Director Wang first. Len Ning hurriedly said goodbye to Director Wang and caught up with Blue Snake. Brother Lan, let's go together, then he smiled and said to Lan Snake. A smile appeared on Blue Snake's face. Okay. But I can only walk with you for a short distance. I have to go see the boss, he said and raised the document in his hand. I'll go too, Len Ning said immediately. It just so happened that she also wanted to meet her eldest brother. By the way, ask them about their arms sales. Become. So the two of them went to Lei Ting's office in the military headquarters while talking and laughing. Knock, knock, knock. Blue Snake knocked on the door. Come in, Thunder's voice immediately came from inside. Blue Snake and Len Ning looked at each other, unlocked the door, and walked in. Inside the house, Lei was reading documents and saw that the person who entered the door was Blue Snake, so he buried his head and continued working. What's the current progress in the laboratory? Lei asked while looking at the documents. Everything goes well. Professor Wang said that the first batch of sample pills will be available as soon as the day after tomorrow. Blue Snake stepped forward with the information and placed it on Lei's table. Thunder looked up at Blue Snake, and then noticed that there was someone in the room. And she was smiling and squeezing his hands. Ahem. Lei was startled at first, and then felt happy in his heart. He immediately put down the documents in his hands and stood up from the office chair. Why didn't you say hello in advance when you came here? Then he took long-legged steps and walked towards Len Ning. Len Ning walked to the sofa and sat down carelessly. Then he called out Blue Snake and Thunder. We're already off work, and you're still working so hard. Come sit down and eat some fruit. As he spoke, Len Ning took out some fresh fruit from the space ring. This is the fruit that I just induced pregnancy in the afternoon. Everyone who has eaten it is full of praise. He said that without waiting for the two of them, he picked up a bunch of grapes and started eating. The grapes were plump, and Len Ning ate them with great joy, which made people instantly have an appetite. Seeing that Blue Snake was looking at him for advice, Lei nodded. Sit down and talk. Then he took the lead and walked towards the sofa closest to Len Ning. Blue Snake hurriedly followed and sat down on the sofa. Come on, have a taste. It tastes so good. Len Ning stepped forward and gave each of them a bowl of fruit. Blue Snake was not polite and picked a grape and tasted it.